We got a pond installed. Cameron, who owns Cutting Edge Excavation, he just started the company up and they got the pond in for us in 2 days. We talked quite a bit about where the pond should actually go. We looked all over the property, but inevitably we settled down by the creek. We didn't go through the creek, we just ended up going next to the creek. My original idea was to go into the creek, which is more just runoff from the property I have, rainwater runoff, as well as it's spring fed somewhere. But they ended up deciding that going into the creek wouldn't be a good idea because of how much surge and everything that we get around here. So they talked me out of that really quickly. I'm really glad I had a local company do this for me instead of one out of town, because these guys completely understood the area in which I live, how the rainfall works, how the flooding works. They ended up putting in the entire pond with a skid loader and a mini excavator. Both pieces of equipment are quite new, but that makes sense because Cutting Edge Excavation is a new company. Cameron actually used to work in the oil industry, and he worked for a larger company heading up big projects and things like that, but he was always away from his family and he just wanted to come home and be able to be at home every night and find something else to do. And since he's really good at excavation work, he started the excavating company. The first day ended up going quite well. It was a little bit muddier than they anticipated. There ended up being a spring at the bottom of the hole that they started digging. It was actually more towards the edge, but they ended up digging it down to keep it from flooding the rest of it. Having a spring in a pond is really nice. A spring-fed pond is a great way to exchange water and get fresh water into your pond regularly, but it's not as much fun actually digging. And it gave them a little bit of trouble when they were compacting the banks, as the dirt was a little wetter than they wanted and ended up kind of not being able to compact it as much, but they said they would come back if they need to in the spring to address any issues. It was really neat to see the two guys getting along so well. They were, you know, by getting along, I mean they were making fun of each other constantly, but you could tell it was in the joking way. They were just, you could kind of just tell they were just having a party. They were just two good old West Virginia boys just having fun, at the same time getting work done, providing for their families, and making me really happy. One of the big reasons we wanted a pond was just for extra water during the drought season, but in addition to that, we were hoping to get fish in there, and I'm somewhat undecided on fish, but we need to do a lot of research on local plants that we can encourage to grow, how we're going to control, you know, any algae. Obviously fish and frogs and other things will end up dealing with other creatures like mosquitoes, and there's definitely going to be some unwanted things that want to grow, so we just need to do a lot of research on it and make sure that we provide the best ecosystem that we can get. We didn't put any special products on the bottom of the pond. Once it was dug, a lot of people, I think it's like a bentonite clay or something like that. There's some type of clay that folks use to line it with. We have West Virginia clay, and after a couple days, it's actually starting to hold water. So we'll see what happens when the water level rises and we get a lot more rain, but they're quite confident it'll hold water. And they have a couple farm ponds that are really similar that are holding water, and they have fish in their ponds. So hopefully I'll be able to stock it probably in the spring, possibly in the spring. And I don't know when I'll actually be able to get fish out of there, but it might take a year or two for everything to get fully established. But that would just be really neat to be able to fish my own pond and grow my own fish in there. We'd also like to stick a cabin someplace, either towards the back of the pond or maybe even up on the hill kind of overlooking the pond. There's no cell phone service down there. There's no internet, there's just nothing. So it'd be really neat to just have a place that I can go eventually where I just for sure get away from everything and just take it easy. There's also a lot of sugar maples down by the creek, and I've entertained the idea of making maple syrup, and it would be pretty neat to have right next to the pond a little shack set up to make maple syrup or maple sugar candy.